Are you familiar with the term for a woman that will do anything for fame? There's a word for it. You can leave your guess in the comments. Breaking news for an ex-Playboy mansion resident. So Hugh Hefner's ex, Holly Madison, says that having sex with Playboy founder was gross and a chore, revealing he often wouldn't move and made everyone call him daddy in the bedroom. Blah, creepy. Holly, now 42, okay, remember that number, we'll come back to that later, has teamed up with fellow ex-Playmate Bridget Marquardt for a brand new podcast called Girls Next Level. In the first episode, which premiered on Monday, the two women shared some intimate details on what it was like to have sex with the magazine publisher. They admitted they wanted to, quote, get it over with as quickly as possible, and none of the females were into it. Oh no, this sounds like a tragedy. What a shame. We should all support them in their moment of need. Okay, let's break this down into some smaller parts. Holly Madison was in her 20s, prime of her life, and let's just face it, she was extremely attractive. It would be fair to say she could have her choice of any man that she wanted. So what did she choose? An elderly, rich man who could enrich her career. So when it all comes down to it, all relationships are some type of transaction where the buyer and seller agree to terms. Okay, in most relationships, the man agrees to work a lot and bring home money to provide a nice house, cars, and a lifestyle that the woman wants. In exchange, the woman agrees to have sex, bear children, keep everyone fed and happy. Of course, there are variations, but you get my point of what a traditional relationship is. So, Holly made her choices and decided to exchange the best years of her life in hopes that a geriatric old man would either die and leave her everything in a will, or provide her with enough social cred to launch her career. I'm not making any judgment calls on her choices, but she definitely made a choice. Now, she seems like she has regrets. I get that. I mean, seriously. It seems like there would be a lot of regrets in hindsight. In 2009, Madison said, quote, "I'm never dating anyone again. I don't need a man. I'm really happy with myself and being with my friends. I'm focused on forwarding my career." End quote. That's a typical thing for a young feminist to say. However, she found someone and started dating. It was a club promoter from Hollywood. Interpret that as you wish. She had her first child when she was 33. Then another child 3 years later at 36. Unfortunately, they were divorced in 2019. So, single mom of two at 40 years old. That's tough. I don't care how hot you used to be. It is going to be tough to find someone to help you raise someone else's kids. For all intents and purposes, she's off the market. Hit the wall. Undateable for anyone with any self-dignity. So that brings us back to her career and her new podcast. She's talking about the past and all of the horrible ways she was treated at the Playboy mansion. Well, there's two reasons for that. One, well, that was the most exciting part of her life, and she probably has great stories. There are stories about a demeaning, rotating schedule of sleeping with a wrinkly, creepy old man with several other girls. And the other reason is, number two, in her mind, she has nothing else to talk about. Her life now is surrounded by daycare, soccer practice, dance lessons, or whatever she has scheduled around her kids. But the first episode of her podcast was all about how awful it was living at the Playboy mansion and the required activities they had to perform in order to stay at the mansion. Keep in mind, this wasn't an illegal, captive, slave trade kind of thing. They chose to be there, and they did the things they did. It was like any other relationship in some ways. They made a trade. The creepy old guy exchanged a little money and his lavish lifestyle. Holly exchanged the best years of her life and some degrading bumping and grinding in hopes for fame. Was it a good trade? Hard to say. I would never place myself in that kind of position, but based on her latest podcast, she regrets it. But now she's 42, single mom, 2 kids, and trying to make a living on a podcast. It sounds kind of lonely to me. Hey, but I could be wrong. Now, I think younger women should watch this podcast and absorb as much as possible. It is not a good idea to rent yourself out for this kind of trade. Now, you might disagree, but based on the evidence, and from the only person who's lived it day to day, it's not a good trade. But honestly, what do you think about her choices? Would you have done it for a chance at fame and a TV show? So researching this was tough. I had to look at hundreds of articles and pics of Holly in her prime. And if you feel sorry for me, then add a quick like and that will help me get over this trauma. Thanks.